My name is Sabrina Colton. I was 29 years old when my mother looked me in the eye during Thanksgiving dinner and said something I will never forget. If you had actually done something with your life, I wouldn't have to explain you to people. 31 relatives heard her say it. Some stared at their plates. Some looked away. Some pretended they didn't hear it. My mother had been saying things like that for 7 years. To everyone in our family, I was the daughter who dropped out of college. The daughter who wasted her future. The daughter people felt sorry for. What nobody at that table knew was that while they were busy judging me, I had spent 7 years building something in silence. And on that Thanksgiving day, every lie finally came crashing down. But that story starts years earlier. It starts with a phone call at 2 in the morning. A phone call that split my life into 2 different parts. Before it happened, I knew exactly where I was going. After it happened, everything changed. It was March of 2017. I was a junior in college studying computer science. I wasn't the smartest student on campus, but I worked hard. My grades were good. I rarely missed class. I stayed up late studying. I had plans. Big plans. Then my phone rang at 2:04 a.m. The number wasn't my mother's. It wasn't my father's. It belonged to Mrs. Parker, my grandmother's next-door neighbor. I answered immediately. "Sabrina?" she asked. Her voice was shaking. "Yes?" "Honey, it's Eleanor." My stomach tightened. "What's wrong?" "Your grandmother collapsed in the kitchen. The ambulance just took her to the hospital." I was already getting out of bed. My roommate woke up. "What's happening?" "My grandmother." That was all I could say. I grabbed my shoes and phone. The first person I called was my mother. The phone rang several times before she answered. "Sabrina," she said sharply. "Do you know what time it is?" "Grandma had a stroke." Silence. "Mom?" "She was taken to St. Vincent's Hospital." Another pause. Then she sighed. Not a worried sigh. Not a scared sigh. An annoyed sigh. "She's 80 years old, Sabrina. These things happen." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom, she's in intensive care. I have a meeting in the morning. Are you coming? Call your sister." Then she hung up. Just like that. No questions. No concern. Nothing. I stared at the screen. Then I called my older sister, Delaney. She answered quickly. "Sabrina? Grandma had a stroke." "Oh no. Can you come?" She was quiet. Then she said exactly what I was afraid she would. "I can't." "What?" "I have exams coming up." "Delaney, this is Grandma." "I know." "Then come." "I can't." I closed my eyes. "Okay." I ended the call. Then I drove 4 hours through the darkness completely alone. No music. No coffee. No conversation. Just me and the road. When I finally arrived at the hospital, the sun was beginning to rise. Grandma Eleanor was lying in a hospital bed surrounded by machines. Half of her body wouldn't move. The strong woman who taught me how to ride a bike looked tiny and fragile. I walked to her bedside. Her eyes opened. She saw me. Then she reached for my hand. Her fingers wrapped around mine. Weak. But still strong enough to let me know she was there. She whispered something through the oxygen mask. I leaned closer. It was only one sentence. A sentence I would remember for the rest of my life. But I'll tell you what she said later. Because right then, something else mattered. The doctors explained that Grandma would need months of recovery. Physical therapy. Medication. Daily care. Someone would need to help her with everything. The hospital social worker handed me information about home health care. The cost was impossible. We couldn't afford it. A few days later I sat in my academic advisor's office. Professor Carlyle was one of the kindest people I had ever met. He looked at me sadly. You don't have to make this decision today. I already have. He nodded slowly. You can come back when you're ready. I signed the paperwork. I packed my dorm room into 4 boxes. Then I drove back home. I moved into Grandma Eleanor's small house. And I became her caregiver. That evening I called my mother. I'm leaving school for now, I told her. I need to take care of Grandma. The line went quiet. Then she said something strange. Don't tell anyone. What? I don't want relatives thinking we can't handle family problems. Mom, it's the truth. The truth, she said coldly, is that you quit college. I stared at the wall. That's not true. It's close enough. Then she hung up. That was the moment everything began. My mother had decided what story everyone would hear. And she wasn't going to let facts get in the way. 3 months later we attended a family barbecue. Grandma was still recovering. I pushed her wheelchair through the backyard gate. The second we arrived, something felt wrong. People kept looking at me. Then looking away. My Aunt Patricia hurried over. Oh, sweetheart. She touched my arm. Are you okay? I frowned. Why? She looked confused. Your mother told us. Across the yard my mother stood with 3 relatives around her. She was dabbing her eyes with a napkin. People were comforting her. Suddenly I understood. She had already told everyone her version. Sabrina quit school. Sabrina gave up. Sabrina wasted her future. I looked at Aunt Patricia. That's not what happened. Before I could explain, my mother's voice floated across the yard. Please, Sabrina. Everyone turned. Not today. The way she said it made me sound like the problem. Like I was causing drama. Like I was attacking her. I felt 30 pairs of eyes on me. So I stayed quiet. Grandma squeezed my wrist. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. On the drive home my phone buzzed. A text from Delaney. Mom is really upset. Why do you always make everything about yourself? I stared at the message. Then I put my phone away. And cried silently while driving Grandma home. 6 months later Grandma was getting stronger. She could make tea. She could move around a little. She could argue with television commercials again. Slowly, she was coming back. And while she recovered, I started building something too. Every night after she fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table. I studied programming. I took online courses. I practiced coding. I learned everything I could. Eventually I found an internship opening at a small software company. The job didn't require a college degree. I applied. I interviewed. The manager liked me. A few days later I got the call. I got the job. I nearly cried from happiness. For the first time in months, I felt hope. Then everything fell apart. The day before I was supposed to start, the manager called. Her voice sounded uncomfortable. I'm sorry, Sabrina. My heart sank. What happened? We've received some concerning information. I felt cold. What information? A family member contacted us. My stomach dropped. We're withdrawing the offer. I already knew. Before she even finished speaking, I knew. I drove straight to my mother's house. She was watering plants on the porch. Did you call my internship? She barely looked at me. No. Someone from my family did. Maybe they simply changed their minds. I stared at her. Mom. She set down the watering can. Not everyone is going to hand you opportunities. Then she walked inside. The door closed. And I stood there alone. That night I sat at Grandma's kitchen table staring at nothing. I felt broken. Completely broken. Grandma rolled into the room in her wheelchair. She studied my face. Bad day? I nodded. Very. She reached over and squeezed my hand. Then tomorrow can be better. At 24 years old, I lived in a tiny apartment. Money was always tight. I built websites for small businesses. A bakery. A dentist. A landscaping company. Whatever work I could find. Every month I helped pay for Grandma's medication. Every month my savings got smaller. But the hardest part wasn't money. The hardest part was Thanksgiving. Every year my mother performed the same show. Someone would ask about me. She would sigh sadly. Then she'd talk about Delaney. Delaney just got promoted. Delaney is doing amazing. Delaney always works so hard. Then someone would ask about me. And my mother would lower her voice. We're worried about Sabrina. People always believed her. Why wouldn't they? She cried. She sounded concerned. And I stayed silent. One night I sat alone in front of my laptop. For months I had been building software for trucking companies. A small transportation company was testing it. The owner loved it. He said it saved him hours every week. I stared at the screen. Really stared at it. For the first time I allowed myself to believe something. This software was good. Really good. And maybe it could become something bigger. That night I made a decision. No speeches. No announcements. No social media posts. Just a quiet decision made at 1 a.m. I was going to build a company. A real company. The next week I filed the paperwork. I named it Juniper Labs. Juniper was Grandma Eleanor's middle name. Then I made another choice. I registered everything under her maiden name. Parker. From that moment forward, the founder of Juniper Labs wasn't Sabrina Colton. It was Sabrina Parker. I wasn't hiding because I was ashamed. I was protecting myself. The last opportunity one got had been destroyed by one phone call. I wasn't giving anyone another chance to do that. Grandma was the only person who knew. One morning during breakfast, I told her everything. She listened quietly. Then she nodded. Good. Good? Yes. What if it fails? What if it doesn't? I laughed. She smiled. 2 weeks later she called me into her room. She handed me a check. I looked down. $3,200. Grandma. Take it. I can't. You can. It's all your savings. She grabbed my hand. Her left side was still weak from the stroke, but her grip was strong enough. I didn't raise you to be small, Sabrina. My eyes filled with tears. Take it. That money became the beginning of everything. I bought equipment. I upgraded my software. I worked day and night. Nobody noticed. Nobody cheered. Nobody believed in me. Nobody except Grandma Eleanor. And honestly, that was enough. By the end of the first year, I had a few customers. Not many. But enough to survive. By the second year, more trucking companies started calling. Word spread. One customer told another. Then another. Then another. Soon I hired my first employee. A remote developer named Julian. Revenue grew. For the first time in years, I wasn't just surviving. I was building. Meanwhile, family gatherings never changed. Every Thanksgiving my mother repeated the same story. Still no degree? Still figuring things out? Still doing computer stuff? I smiled politely and stayed quiet. But every year Grandma gave me the same look. Not yet. Just wait. And eventually, the waiting would end. Because during the 4th year, a phone call arrived from California. A phone call that would change everything. And none of us knew it yet. Not me. Not Grandma. And certainly not the woman who had spent 7 years trying to make me look small. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning. I was sitting at my kitchen table answering emails when my phone rang. The number was from California. At first, I thought it was spam. I almost ignored it. Something told me not to. So I answered. Hello? Is this Sabrina Parker? Yes. My name is Nathan Reed. I'm calling from Horizon Equity Partners. I sat up straighter. Horizon was a major investment company. What can I do for you? We've been following Juniper Labs. My heart started beating faster. We're interested in discussing an investment. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I had spent years building the company alone. Years working late nights. Years hearing relatives talk about me like I was a failure. And now a company from across the country wanted to invest. A few weeks later, I flew to California. The meeting lasted nearly 4 hours. When it ended, Juniper Labs had been valued at $12 million. $12 million. I walked outside the building and sat on a bench. The sun was shining. People walked past me carrying coffee cups. The city buzzed with life. And all I could think about was Grandma Eleanor sitting in her wheelchair years earlier, handing me a check for $3,200. Without her, none of this would have happened. I called her immediately. Grandma? How'd it go? I smiled. We did it. Her voice cracked. I knew you would. The company kept growing. 1 year passed. Then another. We expanded across several states. More customers joined. More employees were hired. Investors continued calling. But through all of it, I stayed quiet. And every Thanksgiving, I still sat at the same table listening to the same lies. 1 year, a relative asked what I did for work. Before I could answer, my mother jumped in. She does some computer freelance work. The room nodded politely. Nobody asked another question. Grandma looked at me from across the table. The same look. Not yet. Then came Thanksgiving during the 5th year. That year, Delaney brought her boyfriend Weston. He was polite. Friendly. The kind of person who actually listened when people talked. During dinner he asked a simple question. So Sabrina, where did you go to school? I opened my mouth. My mother answered first. Sabrina didn't finish college. The room became awkward. Weston nodded politely. That happens sometimes. She had potential, my mother said sadly. But some people just aren't built for that kind of commitment. My stomach tightened. I stared at my plate. Nobody defended me. Nobody corrected her. After dinner I stepped outside onto the back porch. The cold air felt better than being inside. A few minutes later the door opened. Weston stepped outside. He leaned against the railing. For what it's worth, he said, your mom seems complicated. I laughed softly. That was one way to describe her. You okay? He asked. The question surprised me. Most people accepted my mother's version without thinking. Weston didn't. I'll be okay. He nodded. Then he went back inside. I stood there watching my breath in the cold air. For the first time, I wondered if some people were starting to notice. A few months later I ran into Uncle Garrett at a grocery store. We hadn't spoken much in years. The moment he saw me, he hugged me. A real hug. The kind that felt genuine. Then he said something shocking. Your mother told us you didn't want contact with the family. I stared at him. What? She said you wanted space. I couldn't believe it. For years I thought relatives simply didn't care. Now I was learning many of them had been told to stay away. We sat in his car for almost an hour. I told him everything. The stroke. Leaving school. The internship. The lies. The years of silence. He listened carefully. When I finished, he shook his head. She controlled the story. Exactly. That was the problem. She always controlled the story. 2 months later she called me. Sweet as sugar. Sabrina, I've been thinking. That immediately made me suspicious. What about? Maybe it's time you went back to college. I knew the trap instantly. If I agreed, she'd become the hero. If I refused, she'd call me ungrateful. I appreciate it, I said, but I'm fine. Fine? Yes. People pity you, Sabrina. Her voice had become colder. At every family gathering they feel sorry for you. My hand tightened around the phone. I need you to stop speaking for me. There was a pause. Then she said something that stayed with me. I speak for you because you have nothing worth saying. The line went dead. She had hung up. For a long moment I sat there staring at my phone. Then an email arrived. The subject line nearly made me fall out of my chair. Formal investment offer. The company was now valued at $12 million. I smiled. Not because of the money. Because for the first time, her opinion meant absolutely nothing. 2 years later Grandma called me into her room. She handed me an old shoebox. Open it. Inside were photographs. Cards. Old memories. Then I found a printed email. I started reading. My blood ran cold. It was from my mother. Sent to the company that had offered me the internship years earlier. The company she always claimed she never contacted. There it was. Proof. Real proof. She had warned them about me. She had destroyed my opportunity. I looked up at Grandma. How long have you had this? Years. Why didn't you show me? Because you weren't ready. She squeezed my hand. You needed to build your own life first. I nodded slowly. She was right. Years ago I would have exploded with anger. Now I had something stronger than anger. I had the truth. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, I overheard a phone call. I was picking something up from Delaney's apartment. She didn't realize I was there. Our mother's voice came through the speaker. If Sabrina causes problems, handle it. She never causes problems, Delaney said. Exactly, Mom replied. And somehow that makes me look bad. I quietly left without saying a word. Sitting in my car, I felt exhausted. 7 years. 7 years of this. Then my phone buzzed. A new email. This one was from Forbes. They wanted to feature me in Juniper Labs. The article would publish on Thanksgiving Day. I stared at the date. Then I laughed. The timing was unbelievable. The same day my mother planned to remind everyone I was a failure, the entire world would learn the truth. Thanksgiving morning arrived. I picked up Grandma Eleanor. She looked beautiful. Strong. Confident. We drove to my parents' house. The place looked exactly the same. Cars lined the street. Relatives filled every room. And standing in the center of it all was my mother. Vanessa Colton. The queen of appearances. The woman who cared more about how things looked than how they felt. Dinner started at 4. 31 people sat around the table. My mother stood and raised her glass. She praised Delaney. She celebrated Delaney's engagement to Weston. Then her eyes found me. And Sabrina, she said with a sad smile, we're hoping next year will finally be your year. A few people smiled politely. Then someone asked what I did for work. Before I could answer, she spoke for me. Again. Sabrina is still figuring things out. Grandma finally spoke. Sabrina is more than what you've been told. The room went quiet. My mother's smile tightened. Let's just enjoy dinner. But the tension remained. After dinner, everyone moved into the living room. Coffee. Pie. Small conversations. Then I heard my mother's voice. She was talking to Weston's grandmother. Sometimes I wonder if Sabrina has mental health issues. My hands froze. I couldn't believe it. Even after 7 years, she was still inventing stories. I walked over. Mom. She looked up. I need you to stop. Stop what? Telling people things that aren't true. Her eyes filled with tears immediately. The performance began. I only worry about you. No. My voice stayed calm. You don't. The room was becoming quiet. People were listening. Then she said it. The sentence. The one that changed everything. If you had actually done something with your life, I wouldn't have to explain you to people. Silence. Complete silence. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then Grandma's voice cut through the room. That's enough. At that exact moment, several phones buzzed. Nobody paid attention at first. Then Uncle Garrett checked his screen. His eyes widened. Sabrina? The room turned toward him. What? Someone asked. He looked at the screen again. Then at me. Is this you? Aunt Patricia grabbed her phone. A few seconds later, her mouth dropped open. Oh my God. More phones came out. More searches. More shocked faces. My mother looked confused. What is going on? Nobody answered. Finally, my father handed her a phone. She looked down. Confusion. Shock. Fear. I watched all three emotions cross her face. The Forbes article had gone live. So had the acquisition announcement. Juniper Labs had been sold in a $47 million deal. And my face was everywhere. The room stared at me. Then at her. Then back at me. My mother looked like she couldn't breathe. You built a company worth $47 million? Yes. And you never told us? I looked directly at her. You never asked. Silence filled the room. Weston's grandmother spoke first. You told me 10 minutes ago she had mental health issues. My mother turned pale. The room was changing. People were beginning to understand. The real shock wasn't the company. It wasn't the money. It was the lies. 7 years of lies. Grandma Eleanor finally spoke. She told everyone about the stroke. About leaving school. About caring for her. About the sacrifices. About the lies my mother spread. Every word landed harder than the last. Then my father spoke. For 7 years he had stayed silent. Now he looked around the room. It's all true. Just 4 words. But they changed everything. My mother tried to defend herself. I never hurt her. I took out my phone. You called my internship. She froze. I handed the email to Uncle Garrett. He read it aloud. Every person in the room heard it. Proof. Real proof. My mother had sabotaged her own daughter. Nobody defended her. Nobody agreed with her. Nobody even looked at her. For the first time in 7 years, she wasn't controlling the story. The truth was. Then something unexpected happened. She started crying. Not fake tears. Real tears. The kind that come when a person finally realizes they can't escape what they've done. I was trying to protect the family, she whispered. Grandma shook her head. No. You were protecting your image. My mother looked smaller than I had ever seen her. Lost. Broken. Defeated. I expected to feel happy. Instead, I felt tired. Very tired. I didn't come here to embarrass you, I said quietly. But I'm done hiding the truth. Then I pushed Grandma's wheelchair outside. Cold air hit my face. For the first time in years, I felt free. The next morning Delaney called. She admitted everything. She knew about the internship. She knew Mom interfered. She stayed silent because she was afraid. Afraid of losing our mother's approval. Her apology didn't fix the past. But it was honest. And honesty was a start. Later that day I spoke to my parents. I gave my mother 3 choices. Tell everyone the truth. Stop controlling communication. Get professional help. If she refused, our relationship would end. For once she had no speech ready. No excuse. No performance. Just silence. As Grandma and I drove home through falling snow, she smiled. You remember what I told you in the hospital? I nodded. She had whispered those words 7 years earlier. They will try to make you small. Don't let them. But don't become them either. I smiled through tears. Those words had guided my entire life. And somehow, despite everything, I had followed them. Months later life was different. Relatives apologized. My mother started therapy. My father wrote a letter admitting he had failed me. Delaney began working on rebuilding our relationship. And Grandma moved with me into a beautiful new home. People often ask if I forgave my family. The answer is complicated. Healing takes time. Trust takes time. But truth is where healing begins. A few months later we celebrated Grandma Eleanor's birthday. Family gathered around a table. Not a perfect table. Not a complete table. But a good one. Uncle Garrett was there. Delaney was there. Weston was there. People laughed. People talked. People were honest. Grandma looked around the room and smiled. This is a good table. She was right. Because a good table isn't built with money. Or status. Or appearances. It's built with truth. My name is Sabrina Colton. Some people know me as Sabrina Parker. For years other people told my story. Now I tell it myself. And if you've ever felt invisible. If you've ever been treated like the family disappointment. If you've ever sat quietly while someone else rewrote your story. Remember this. You don't need millions of dollars to prove your worth. You don't need applause. You don't need permission. Keep building. Keep believing. Keep moving forward. One day the truth will speak for itself. And when it does, peace feels better than revenge. Thank you for listening to my story. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories like this. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place?